So a pretty quiet international break for us Rangers fans, but alas, we are back in action this weekend as we take on Dundee United at Tannadice. In today's video, we'll go over some huge news ahead of the clash, whilst also going over all the latest Rangers news for the last 24 hours. But before we do get into today's video, please do smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more Rangers content. Former Rangers flop Fabio Silva has insisted he will have success in Scotland after being paraded by his new club Las Palmas. Rangers took Silva on loan in a high-profile move last season, but the 22-year-old, who was Wolves' record signing for £35 million, failed to live up to the hype. He scored just 4 league goals in 18 appearances and was allowed to return to Molineux in the summer after the loan deal expired. The Portuguese forward is now on another loan and could team up with Scotland international and Rangers fan Ollie McBurney up front, with Scott McKenna also at the La Liga club. Silva insisted his time at Ibrox wasn't as bad as it was portrayed. He said, "I came here to succeed and I think I succeeded in Scotland because I am now in La Liga. The issue of the transfer fee that Wolves paid is something that happened and wasn't my fault. I am 22 years old and I think people forget that. I think I am at my best when I do things instinctively. I love the idea of playing in La Liga and I made a huge effort to be here. Las Palmas were the first team that spoke to me in May and it was my choice to be here. There was no point in me putting any pressure on myself by predicting how many goals I will score. I'm here because I'm a striker and I also live off scoring goals, but I can play in many positions wherever the manager wants." In other news, Rangers will find out how much, if anything, they are due Aberdeen as they await a date from the SPFL for a tribunal concerning Connor Barron's summer transfer. The two Scottish Premiership clubs have been unable to agree on compensation after Barron joined Rangers on a free transfer following his departure from Aberdeen in June. As Barron came through the Pataudry youth ranks, Aberdeen are entitled to compensation. The box-to-box midfielder went on to make 76 first-team appearances for the North East outfit before refusing a contract extension and choosing Rangers as his next chapter in his career. Whilst a move outside Scottish football would have netted them £500,000, different roles apply domestically, leading to the intervention of the governing body in the hope that the pair can find a solution. Barron has already made 7 appearances for Rangers under manager Philippe Clement, proving to be an important addition and was recently called up to Steve Clarke's Scotland squad for the first time last month. In some huge news ahead of the Scottish Premiership return, Rangers have announced the Coupland front will be open to supporters on the return to Ibrox later this month. The Ibrox side will be back at their home stadium after construction work for the visit of Dundee in the Premier Sports Cup on Saturday, September 21st. Initially, it had been communicated that the Coupland stand would remain closed while the final work is completed. However, now the club have announced that the Coupland front will be open to supporters. The Coupland rear will remain closed for the fixture while final concourse works continue ahead of a full return for supporters. A statement confirmed, following good progression in completion works, Rangers can today confirm the Coupland front will be open for the Dundee match in the Premier Sports Cup on September 21st. Season ticket holders from this area will now be able to purchase their own seat from 5 PM this evening, while supporters in the Coupland rear will remain closed for this match as final concourse works continue. You can select an alternative seat elsewhere in the stadium, also from 5 PM this evening. Tickets go on sale and are priced at £23 for adults, £17 for concession, and £11 for juniors. Barry Ferguson admits he has been concerned about James Tavernier's Rangers' future during the international break. The Rangers captain was on the end of some personal abuse following a 3-0 loss to Celtic on September 1st, and the right-back has since been linked with a switch away from Ibrox. Ferguson did have to deal with his own fair share of adversity throughout his time as Rangers skipper, and has sympathy for the way Tavernier has been treated by supporters. And he's challenged the 32-year-old to go out and begin to prove the doubters on if he has chosen the fight for his future at the club, starting when they visit Tannadice to face Dundee United on Sunday lunchtime. He said, "I can only imagine what it's like being the guys who are actually still wearing that shirt, and in particular for the man who pulls on the armband. That's why the next couple of days could be the most important of James Tavernier's 9 years at Ibrox, and I must be honest, I found myself wondering what must be going through his head right now. The transfer deadline is still open in Turkey for a few more hours, and Tavernier has been linked with a number of clubs in the Super League. That certainly doesn't surprise me because the guy's numbers in terms of assists, goals scored, and his ability at dead balls are all right up there. Of course, teams will be interested in a player like that. The question is, what does Tavernier want to do in his heart of hearts? Because I can imagine that he will be feeling pretty torn right now. He could have gone and chose to pick up the phone to his agent and tell him to thrash out a deal before the Turkish window closed. Instead, he seems to have nipped it in the bud. That tells me he wants to lead that team back out of the tunnel at Tannadice on Sunday and front up the process of trying to make up for what went wrong a couple of weeks ago. Twice in my career, albeit for very different reasons, I left the club and gave up the Rangers captaincy. And on both occasions, I felt a bit of me never quite got over it. I guess it was slightly different for me because I was born and bred a Rangers man. So to become captain of the club I followed as a boy was the ultimate honour and privilege. I could hardly believe how lucky I was, and I took the responsibility very seriously. Yes, it meant there was added pressure on my shoulders, but I enjoyed that. I always felt it brought the best out of me. There would be disappointments and poor performances, and when they came along, I knew I would have to take the brunt of it as I was the leader of the group. I remember getting a bit of stick from supporters after defeats when I was leaving the stadium to walk to my car. Some of it got personal, and that was never nice to hear. But almost all of the time I would be thinking to myself, you know what, the guy's right, I was rotten today, and this is not effing good enough. I think about it on the drive home and it would get under my skin, but my way of responding was to work as hard as I could on the training pitch and then go back out there and show them that I was still good enough to dominate and control a game of football. That I was captain material after all. I was lucky too, we had such a successful team and I was surrounded by so many talented players that it never took too long for us to put things right. If we lost one title, one season, we'd win it the next. If we didn't win one cup final, then we'd make sure we win the next one. But it's not like that for Tavernier. He's had to lead the club for a very different set of circumstances, and it feels as if he's carrying the stigma of being a Rangers captain, synonymous with not winning many trophies. I'm not sure how I would have coped with that. It would have done my head in, to be honest with you. Yes, I like to think I would react the way I always did in my own time, but year after year, disappointing season after disappointing season, it must have taken hell of a toll on the man. Fans have to remember he's a human being after all with real feelings. So I've been thinking about him over these last 2 weeks ever since I saw that footage from outside Ibrox following the Derby defeat when he was confronted by angry supporters. Now, I'm not on social media, but the clip was sent to me, and my first thought was, that's way too much. It just hasn't sat right with me all of this time. Yes, we will have to accept criticism when we're not doing our jobs properly. It's the same for people who work in all sorts of industries. If you're not performing, then someone somewhere will let you know about it. And Rangers fans had every right to be angry about the way their team performed at Parkhead. They were still raw and they were still hurting, but a line was crossed in terms of the levels of abuse that Tavernier was subjected to. It went way over the score. Like him or not, rate him or don't rate him, but this guy has been wearing the jersey for nearly a decade as a Rangers player, and never once has gone into hiding no matter how tough it's been. He's always been available for selection the next week. That's another reason why I was wondering where his head is at. I hope he deals with it the way I used to. I hope it's given him the fuel to get back onto the pitch as quickly as possible and show what he's all about. But I would understand if he feels it's unfair that he's the whipping boy all of the time. It's a team game, for crying out loud. It can't all be pinned on just one man, whether he's the captain or not. I wish I could give him a bit of advice, but I can't. Deep down, only he knows if he wants to be released from the weight of his responsibility, or if the desire and the appetite is still burning as brightly as ever, and it seems he's chosen the second option. But what I do know is that Rangers will arrive on Tayside on Sunday morning with no room for error. Celtic will open up an 8-point gap over them at the top of the table by beating Hearts at home less than 24 hours earlier. It can't stay that way. It can't become 7-point gap either. No, it has to be cut straight back to 5, no option. Anything less than a win results in things becoming even more heated. Tavernier and his teammates can't allow this hole to get any deeper. It's now time for them to start climbing out of this instead. Rangers fans, what are your thoughts on the news we discussed today? And what are your thoughts on Barry Ferguson's words on James Tavernier? Again, let me know all down there in the comment section below. That brings us to the end of today's video. As always, please do smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for daily Rangers content. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.